Welcome, Crossover Report. Three guys, one mic coming at you on this Tuesday afternoon here. NBA playoffs underway. About two games have been played so far in the first round, so going to give our thoughts so far on the games and then kind of some of our predictions. There's been a few series that are just obviously teams are going to win. There's a few close ones, though. A few of the matchups tied 1-1 as of now. More games tonight. So just going to get our thoughts so far on the first round of the NBA playoffs on this episode today. As always, Paul Lamb, Nick Damiani, myself, Neil Doyle, and our special guest today, who we've had on before, our good friend and Kendall Smith, coming at you from Ball State. Thanks for coming on, Kendall. We appreciate you coming on today.
No problem at all, guys.
So Kendall, always fun to have him on the show. He knows what's good about the basketball. Kendall's a baller. I think he can beat me. I don't think Paul or I can hang with Kendall, but he's going to give some insight on today's episode.
Yeah,
so let's just jump right into it. So pretty much two games have been played in all the series except for two. There's games tonight, San Antonio and Memphis play, and then Miami and the Hornets will play their second game. I believe it's those two tonight will play. But some of these series, though, are just kind of, being dominated by the top teams. There's a few close ones, but we'll get into it since we haven't really gave our predictions yet for the NBA playoffs. That's what we're going to do in this episode. So let's start off out in the Eastern Conference. The East, notoriously not the strongest of the two conferences. They're headlined by the Cavs, who got the 1 seed. Toronto's the 2. The Cavaliers won their first game in that series against Detroit, who's the 8 seed. It was a little bit closer than I think people thought. Kevin Love kind of came up big for the Cavs in that first game. I believe they play tonight. Or no, I'm sorry, they play tomorrow night against Detroit. That's their second game. So looking at that game on the East, I mean, is there any way you guys think Detroit hangs around with Cleveland, or is Cleveland just easily – I mean, I think everyone thinks they're easily going to get through this first round with Detroit. Kendall, we'll start with you. Is there any way Detroit hangs around with Cleveland? How many games do you think it goes to? Who do you have winning that first round between those two?
I'll give them a courtesy game, 1, maybe 1. If not, they'll just get swept. I honestly think they'll hang around in each game, but I don't think they have enough talent to do anything really in this series. Because even if you look at the last game, their three-point shooting was incredible in the first half, and for them to still end up losing that game just told the whole story to me.
So you have them winning 1, but Cleveland winning the series 4-1. Then you have.
Yeah, 4-0 or 4-1. 4-1
Okay.
at 5.
Yeah, I think that's Paulie, Nick, any way Detroit hangs around in this, Nick?
Yeah,
I think Cleveland.
He said Nick. He said Nick.
He said Paul. I think Cleveland sweeps him here. I think you saw from Detroit a young team that they made good strides this year. Van Gundy's got him playing good ball, but like you saw at the end of the game, Reggie Jackson, he ran like 30 feet to go yell at a ref after he thought he got fouled. Like, that's just childish. It was a 2 or 4 point game or something in that scenario. They're not going to win a series like that. Cleveland in 4.
Nick?
Agreed. I had Cleveland in 4 too. He took everything. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thinks there's any way Detroit hangs around. First game a little bit closer than I think people thought, but there shouldn't be any problem for the Cavs. So all of us agree Cavaliers will move through this first round. And then the 4 and 5 seed in the East, Atlanta and Boston. Atlanta took that first game. I believe that was a 1-point game in their first game on Sunday. And then they'll play tonight in Atlanta again. It's an interesting matchup, but Boston had a really, good year this year. I don't think a lot of people thought they would have as good of a year as they had. Atlanta coming off that strong season last year, just, mediocre enough to get the 4 seed. This is an interesting matchup between these two. I think it could go either way. What are your guys' thoughts? Nick, we could start with you. Where do you see this series going with Atlanta up right now 1-0?
I actually like Atlanta in 6. I just like that Jeff Teague and Al Horford got more playoff experience than a guy like Isaiah Thomas, who's got to lead the Celtics. I like Isaiah Thomas as a player. I don't think he's ever going to be that type of player that can lead a team through the playoffs, though. He's always going to be a star that can play second fiddle to a guy, and I don't think the Celtics have that guy right now. They got a lot of really solid players like Jay Crowder. I like him a lot. He's going to be pretty good. Olenek's better than I thought he was. But I like Atlanta just more for their experience in this series.
Kendall, what's your thoughts on this series?
I'll take Atlanta as well. Just like Nick said, experience. Just watching the game the other day, I I don't know what to believe anymore, but I'll just take Atlanta just based off experience. Because if you watch the end of that game, I don't know. Boston hung around a little bit, so it'll be a long series, but I think Atlanta will pull it out.
Paulie.
I got the Celtics in 6. I think Brad Stevens outcoached whoever the Hawks coach is. They had a lot of open looks. They had a lot of open looks at the end of the game. The only problem was they had Evan Turner and Marcus Smart and Jerebko and people shooting threes who maybe aren't their best shooters. They couldn't get Isaiah Thomas open for looks, but they had wide open looks at the end of the game. They just didn't hit the shot.
Because
So
they're
I
not
think
good
they
enough to hit the shot.
shot. Was it your turn? Is it my turn?
No.
So I think they can hit the shots. I think they can still play. The Avery Bradley injury hurts them, but I don't think it kills them. I think they play tough. This Atlanta team, like, they're nothing special. You don't have to play it's not like the Celtics have to play perfect to beat Atlanta. So Celtics is it.
I like it. Yeah, I think it could go either way. I'm going to go with Atlanta only because, like Nick said, and Kendall, I think just the experience from last year. You got to credit Boston. They've had a much better season than people expected them to have this year, but I just think that lack of the playoff experience, Brad Stevens' first ever playoffs, I think Atlanta's going to move on in this series. And then the next series in the East, the 3-6 matchup, Miami the 3 seed, Hornets the 6. Miami won their first matchup 123-91. That was on Sunday. They will play again tomorrow night. This one, I don't know. I think Miami, it's just a question of can they stay healthy. They've been banged up throughout the year. The Hornets, another team kind of like Boston who slipped in, with a team like the Bulls, who we've talked about in the past video, how they just, collapsed. The Hornets find their way in the playoffs this year, led by Kemba Walker. I think a lot of people are banking on the Heat to have an okay playoffs, I think only because the Eastern Conference is as weak as it is. But let's get your guys' thoughts. Kendall, we'll start with you. Where do you see this series going between Miami and Charlotte?
Based on what I saw from game one, it would be hard to give the Hornets a game, to be honest. So as of right now, I would say the Heat sweep. Just the addition of Joe Johnson in general has just been huge for the Heat. And also I'm trying to think. Yeah, because with Joe Johnson, it allows them to play I'm trying to think. It allows Whiteside to come off the bench now.
Right.
Whiteside comes off the bench now, right? Okay. So it allows that, which just makes them so much deeper as a team. It'll be tough.
Like you said, with that Joe Johnson addition, a lot of people are liking this Miami team to possibly, get to the Eastern Conference Finals to play LeBron and the Cavs. So, and our boy Luol Deng, old Bulls native, had 31 in that first game. He was lighting it up. So, the Heat are a team that could advance. I agree with Kendall. I think the Heat handled the Hornets pretty easily. The Hornets have some pieces, but I don't really like. I'm not going to lie. I haven't watched saw a few Hornets highlights this year. I don't think I watched a Hornets game. But I like the Heat. I think they'll go maybe the Hornets win one game. So that's my prediction. I don't know. Nick, what are your thoughts on this series?
Yeah, I'm going to give the Hornets just one game over the Heat. Like Kendall said, Miami looked dominant in the first game, and I think Luol Deng's been a big part of their postseason. Him and Dwayne Wade, like I said, we were talking about experience earlier. Those two guys got plenty of experience. If you look at the Hornets, I don't know if any of those guys really been in the playoffs outside of Batum and Kemba. This has to be his first year in there, right?
Yeah, probably. Maybe second. I don't know.
When they were the Bobcats, wasn't he there?
Yeah, when they were the Bobcats, they were in with Kemba. So this is his first playoffs. Yeah, when they switched.
I feel like it's his first playoffs, basically. His meaningful chance. I was shocked they got a 6 seed, and I got my Bulls over here sitting at home. Derrick Rose icing his knees and crap, worried about his kid, and the Hornets are in the playoffs instead of us. Anyways, yeah, I got the Heat in 5. You say?
Paulie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I got nothing to add. Heat in 5.
So then the last series in the East, the 2-7 matchup, Toronto, the 2 seed, and the Pacers, the 7 seed. This series have already been 2 games played. It's split right now 1-1. The Pacers took the first game of this series in Toronto, and Paul George, one of the top players in the league, had a great first game. And then in their second game, Toronto came back and battled, split it at home. So now they'll head to Indiana on, I believe, Thursday night. They play again, the third game. So, I think a lot of people, Toronto's been a great regular season team in the East the last 2-3 years, but they really struggle come playoff time, and I think that's really been their MO the last few years. Do you think this Pacers team is going to be able to, I don't know if you really even call it an upset, even though Toronto is the 2 seed. But can the Pacers move on this first round? I think a lot of people think they can, just with having a guy like Paul George. So, Nick, I don't know, where do you see this series go? Does Toronto maybe figure it out this playoffs and make a little bit of a run, or do the Pacers upset them?
I think it goes 7 games. I'm actually going to go with the Pacers. I'm just not sold on the Raptors right now. I think Lowry's overrated. I think DeRozan, if he's not scoring, he's a liability to your team, honestly. I don't think he plays very good defense or anything like that. Who's DeMarre Carroll? I know Paul likes DeMarre Carroll for no reason. I think he's an overrated defender. He can't stop Paul George. And like you're talking about, Paul George is a big enough difference maker to where I think they can get this done in 7. I think George Hill hit some big shots for them. Pacers in 7.
Kendall, what are your thoughts on this series?
I'm gonna go with the Pacers in 6 or 7, simply just because they had the best player on the court. I mean, no other reason, to be honest. Paul George is a problem, as you saw in the second half of last game. First half, he didn't really do too much, I don't think. But in the second half, in game one, from what you saw in the second half, just based on that alone, I think they can win in 6 or 7.
Paulie?
I have the Raptors in 7. I think it'll be a close series, but I want to touch on what Nick said about how if DeMar DeRozan's not scoring, he's not doing anything for you. Now, you'll remember, if you go back a couple weeks, we talked about Steph Curry. And I said,
hold on. But I'm going to save myself real quick here. I said Steph Curry scores at such an alarming rate that his defense really doesn't matter. But he always scores. DeMar DeRozan isn't always scoring. Steph is always scoring.
Steph Curry didn't score the night. Steph didn't score last night.
Are we being serious?
Next match.
Are we being serious? They only won by 9. They won by 20. They won by 20 when he was playing. 11-point differential.
So he's not always scoring, clearly.
He's always scoring. Anytime he steps on that floor with Under Armour sneakers on, he's scoring.
Unless Dellavedova or the kid from Memphis is covering him.
Let's talk about Raymond Felton on Russell Westbrook then, because I know you think Russell Westbrook's better than him. Raymond Felton had like 21. Absurd.
Right.
Absurd. And he held Russ to below 50% shooting.
Hey, you got to take a lot of shots to make a lot of shots, man.
All right. Not Steph. That night Kobe scored 60. Steph scored a quiet 40 on like
Steph shot 900 threes this year. So what are you talking about? 900 threes this year.
He hit 400 of them. 400.
He shot 900 of them.
All right, let's start talking about the Warriors. We're in the Eastern. We already. You know, Paul was going to bring up Steph Curry, but so that's
There's no reason to hate him.
All right. Well, we're about to get to the Warriors, but that's the Eastern Conference first round. Eastern Conference first round. I mean, there's maybe that Toronto, Indiana, and the Atlanta-Boston series could be kind of fun. I think the other two should be pretty chalked up for Miami and Cleveland, but first round in the East, that's what we have. Moving on now over to the Western Conference, where you get a lot of competitive first round matchups usually year in and year out. But this first matchup, Golden State Houston, the 1 and 8 seed, I don't think there's any doubt Golden State's going to sweep Houston, but after their first 2 games, the Warriors are up 2-0. They play again tomorrow night. Kendall, let's just get your thoughts. Houston have any chance of winning a game in this series?
I mean, yeah, it's a sweep. I mean, just watching the Rockets play, I never knew how much chemistry affected a sporting team in general until I watched the Houston Rockets play. You can just see just dysfunction in every aspect of their game. Like, they don't get along on the court. I mean, it's evidently apparent. So just based on that alone, and the fact that their play style doesn't match their roster, they shoot so many threes but have no valid 3-point threats. Josh Smith shoots like he's Ray Allen sometimes, just spot up threes. So I mean, just based on all those factors alone, it's a sweep.
Paulie?
Yeah, Kendall, you're fitting in well, because that's what we've been saying about Josh Smith for a while. Yeah, the Rockets are – Dwight Howard is such a waste of NBA talent. He should be, like – it's unbelievable. He has more God-given talent than some of the great centers, but he just doesn't want to play hard. Like, it's fine if you're Shaq and you're joking around, but then you can get serious and win games. Like, Dwight Howard's always just messing around. It's like
I don't know if that's the problem with Dwight, though.
I just don't think he wants to play. He doesn't. He just masked it with a smile how bad he is.
Dwight's never been a highly skilled player, though.
He came in. I don't know.
He led the Magic to the finals that one year.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah, but he had guys on that
Yeah,
team. I mean,
athleticism.
Jameer
Yeah.
Nelson,
Rashard Lewis?
prime, Aflalo was on that team.
But he
Playing.
had the
Jameer
right.
Nelson, you're
But
naming
he had
nobody.
He was playing great then.
He was
What?
healthy.
I think what happened was he peaked then and he stopped working, and then he thought he was entitled to a lot of stuff. He thought he was entitled.
Well, there was the
He
story
hasn't
that
won anything.
Hakeem Olajuwon went to him and was like, "I can teach you post moves." And Dwight was like, "Nah, I'm good, Hakeem. I don't want to learn post moves from you."
I don't know. He's just never been highly skilled. He's never had a jump shot. He was just he was healthy and he was athletic back in the day. Neither one of those two are the case anymore.
Right, that's true. All right,
Nick, what are your
Wears
thoughts?
tight sleeves.
Nick, is there any way the Rockets win a game?
No, I got the Warriors in 4. The Warriors would sweep most of the teams, but they are playing the biggest joke in the playoffs right now. Joke.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty consensus. I don't think anybody. I think I just saw a tweet earlier. Colin Coward said they should just end the series now to stop the embarrassment for the NBA for the rest of this series because it's just not going to get any better for Houston, and I agree with that. So most people think Warriors will sweep in that first round series. The 4-5 matchup over in the West, Clippers are the 4 seed, Portland the 5. That so far has only been played one game in that series. The Clippers won that first game, 115-95. Portland had a much better year than I think people thought after losing a bunch of guys in Aldridge. They lost Batum, Wesley Matthews. I think they only had one guy in Lillard in their starting 5 coming back this year. And they played okay throughout the year. They got the 5 seed. That game was close through the first half against the Clippers. I believe they played Sunday night. But the Clippers are up 1-0. They play again tomorrow. This is kind of an interesting matchup. I think it could go either way. The Clippers, people are just waiting to see if they can finally do something over in the tough West in the playoffs. They haven't been able to the last few years. What are your guys' thoughts on this series? Paul, we'll start with you.
I think the Clippers end up winning it, probably 4-1 or 4-2. But Damian Lillard's a real deal. I mean, he could win 2 games alone for Portland. They just are not going to have enough around him. I think the Clippers are kind of playing some of the better basketball now they got Blake Griffin back. And then the winner of this series goes on to play the Warriors.
Golden State, yeah.
Right? So I think either of these teams, I don't know if either of them can beat them in the series. I don't know if Portland has enough, and I don't know if the Clippers can close out the series against Golden State. But I think both of them can play them tough and win 1 or 2 games. But I like the Clippers eventually outlasting the Blazers.
Nick, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree with Paul. I like the Clippers in 6. I think Damian Lillard is talented enough to win them 2 games, but when it comes to depth, Portland lost Myers Leonard, and Clippers getting Blake Griffin back is huge. Jamal Crawford just won 6th Man of the Year. That's always big. So I got the Clips. And Chris Paul is one of the better postseason players that we've seen. I saw the other day he's one of only 4 guys that got 12 and 10. Average that in playoffs. Fun fact.
Kendall?
Just one question before I go. Is Jamal Crawford a Hall of Famer?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
I don't know.
I love his game, but I don't think
I think he's a Hall of Famer.
I don't know.
I think
has he been to the All-Star game?
Manu is a borderline Hall of Famer, and I don't think Jamal Crawford is Manu.
Has Jamal Crawford been in the All-Star game?
I don't know.
If he's never been in there, I don't know how the hell we could put him in the Hall of Fame.
Valid.
That's
I
tough.
don't think he has. But okay, I'll answer the question. I'll take the Clips. I'll take Clips in 6. I mean, I don't think Trailblazers have enough, as you guys said before that, to get them. They have enough to win them 1 or 2 games with C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. But other than that, it'll be a 6-game series.
Yeah, I'll go 5 games. I think the Clippers, just repeating what you guys said, too much depth. But I am surprised how well Portland played this year. They just don't have enough to go up against the Clippers. So I got Clippers 6. I'll go with Kendall. Moving on, 3-6 matchup over in the West, OKC and Dallas. That series is pretty fun right now. Already 2 games have been played. It's split right now 1-1. And it was kind of, the first game, it was all Oklahoma City. They won 108-70. Dallas just could not find any type of offense. And then it was almost role reversal in the second game. It was a lot closer though. Dallas ended up winning 85-84. That game was last night. But the Thunder from their first game clicking on the offensive end just could not get it going last night. Kevin Durant struggled from the field. And then Dallas had, so many wily veterans. I feel like when you look at Dallas, all they are is a veteran team. And last night, Raymond Felton came out of nowhere and had 21 points, stepped up huge at the end of that game to win them that game last night. So it's pretty big now. Moving on, now the Mavericks will go home with this series split. I think a lot of people thought the Thunder would kind of, ease their way through this series, but right now tied 1-1. Nick, I mean, does Dallas have a chance to hang with Durant and Westbrook, or where do you see this series? Where do you see it going?
I don't think they have a chance to hang with. I think they win maybe one more. I thought that game was kind of fluky. Kevin Durant's never going to shoot that bad again, and Raymond Felton's probably never going to play that good again. But I will give the Mavericks the coaching edge. I think Rick Carlisle's a really good and underrated coach, and he's a lot better than Billy Donovan. But Oklahoma City's talent is way too good. How many games have we seen this year where the score is 85-88? It's just that it doesn't happen anymore. I think most of these games are going to go up to 120, and when it comes to that, Oklahoma City is going to blow Dallas out of the water because Dallas just doesn't have the scoring to hang with them anymore. So I like Oklahoma City in 6.
Kendall?
Yeah, I'll take OKC in 5. I don't see Dallas winning another game. I don't ever see Kevin Durant shooting that poorly again. He probably won't miss another 26 shots all series, to be frank with you. But I'm not really worried about this series. I'm worried about future series, though.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like they can finish.
Yeah.
If you look in the last, we'll say 4 or 5 minutes of the game, they just look like shells of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like they weren't playing good basketball. It just wasn't there. They had Russell Westbrook out there shooting threes, and it's just, I don't know. I'm not worried about this series, but once they start playing better teams that can get them, push them in late game situations, that's when I'm worried. But other than that, I'm taking OKC in 5.
Paulie?
Yeah, I agree with everything they said. If OKC scores 100 points, the rest of the series, they win all of those games. So I got them in 5. But, I mean, if they have another shooting night like last night, Dallas has usually got a pretty good crowd. They can get under their skin a little bit. You saw that pregame with Westbrook and Cameron Payne. You got Charlie Villanueva trying to fight them and shit. But if they can get under their skin, which they might have, who knows? But I still think OKC is too much.
Yeah, I 4 for 4 across the board. Thunder have too much talent with Durant and Westbrook. I mean, but if a guy like Felton can keep playing well, and if Dirk somewhat is able to find, I mean, he struggled shooting the ball his first 2 games. He still had 17 points last night, but only shot at 7 for 19. He's got to score at a pretty efficient pace, I think, for Dallas to have any chance. But with Durant and Westbrook, you're never going to have them, I think, shoot as bad as they did last night. So I got Thunder in 5. I don't think Dallas is going to win another game. But I totally agree with Kendall. Moving down the road, can the Thunder close out games? I think that's been the big question. It's been really a question the last few years in the playoffs. I mean, they always have the talent, but can they close it? That's always the question for Oklahoma City. And then the last matchup over in the West in the first round, the 2-7 matchup, San Antonio and Memphis. That game, there's already been one game in that series. San Antonio won that first game 106-74. They will play again tonight. Memphis is consistently in the playoffs over in the West, but their style of play just doesn't seem to really fit in the Western Conference. They play through their big guys in Randolph and Gasol, but they just, the last 5 years, they just don't have enough offensive power. They try to go out and get guys, maybe a guy like Jeff Green to come in and score a few more points, but they just don't ever have enough offense. Is there any way Memphis is able to hang around with the Spurs? The Spurs had such a dominant year right behind Golden State. What are your guys' thoughts? Paulie, we'd start with you.
Memphis is kind of like Houston. They're hard to watch at times because you got Lance Stevenson out there, Matt Barnes, Birdman, and then some D-League dudes. They play hard, which is great, but they play hard and then you look and they're not going anywhere. Like, they're down by like 35 points. I don't think the Spurs have any trouble. I wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs sat Tim Duncan a couple games throughout the series, maybe give Memphis one game just to rest. But I think they probably sweep them overall. I don't think it's going to be close.
Kendall?
Yeah, same. It'll be a sweep. Grizzlies they're depleted. They don't have anything left. They have so many injuries. I just don't think they have enough talent or offense in general to keep up. It'll be a sweep.
Nick?
Agreed. Losing Marc Gasol killed him. Killed him.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see the Spurs losing a game. Memphis just doesn't have enough. They're in the playoffs every year, but they just have no until they go out and get maybe another guy or two to score. They don't ever have enough offensive talent to compete in games. So I've got the Spurs sweeping, and that completes the whole first round on both the West and Eastern Conference sides. Games will be going on for the next week and a half, depending on how many of these series maybe go to 7 games. I mean, there's maybe a few that can. I think one of us said the Clippers-Portland series could go to 7. You never know, but I mean, a lot of these games some of these series could end up, at the end of this week if some of these teams sweep. But we'll have full coverage for you. As always, you can always follow us on Twitter at Crossover Report to keep up with all of the games. And then we'll have another video for you next week touching up on some of these matchups. I'm sure some of them will be over. And then we'll go from there. So, I mean, a lot of basketball. NBA playoffs always seems like it takes forever. The finals don't start until June 2nd, so we've got a whole month or so of basketball before the finals even start. So still a lot of basketball left to play. Any final thoughts from you guys? Kendall, we appreciate you coming on. Anything before we head out?
That's pretty much it. No,
I like it. Paulie, Nick?
I got something. Jamal Crawford, no All-Star games for Jamal Crawford, but
yeah, no, yeah,
he's 7th all-time in threes made, 7th all-time.
And then when you shoot the 3, he could play for another 2-3 years.
Look at Vince Carter. Vince Carter, number 6, all-time threes, still playing. Hey.
There you go. You never know. That's going to do it for us, though. But as we said, as always, you can follow us on Twitter at Crossover Report. You can like us on Facebook. Subscribe to us right here on YouTube, and you can always visit us at crossoverreport.com. And I think that's it. First round matchups, some of our predictions. We'll have more coverage for you next week. We'll touch up on a bunch of these matchups. Some of them should be done, some of them still going on. We want to thank Kendall Smith coming on from Ball State, our good friend from Marian Catholic. Thank you for joining us here today. And as always, Paul Lamb, Nick Damiani, and myself, Neil Doyle. 3 guys, 1 mic, Crossover Report. We'll see you next time.